Here, and I'm going to show you how to make a bin cage. This is the bin cage that I made. I made the whole top wire and both ends are also wire. So the supplies that you will need is a bin. These are 65 quart bins. They're a decent size. This is the wire. They call it hardware cloth. It's 1/2 inch squares and it is wrapped when you buy it tightly with plastic on it and this wire. This is actually the wire that I used to attach the mesh wire to my bins. Made it super easy because it came free with my spool of wire. I just took something round, this happens to be crafting paint, and wrapped it around this so that it stayed nice and neat and was available when I needed it. Pull it up and cut some off, and that you will need besides the wire mesh and the additional wire. You'll need a lighter to heat up your blade because it cuts the plastic so much better that way. I used a dry erase marker to mark the lines where I wanted to cut, and a ruler as a straight edge. You might want to decide by measuring where you're going to put your hole. I didn't really need it, I just eyeballed it. What I thought was in the middle was fine with me. A drill to drill the holes so that you can wire in your mesh. Wire cutters, and I use needle nose pliers to make sure that my wire was twisted on as tightly as possible. Also, I have the duct tape that my daughter selected for her bin cage, just for a nice decorative finished look. The bin with the lines prepared for the shape I want to cut out. I have gone up high enough that hopefully bedding won't get thrown out of the wire mesh, and low enough that my hamsters could easily climb out a tube if I felt I wanted to attach a tube later on. Also, don't go too close to the top. If you choose to leave your lid off often, keep your line even lower so that you don't have your hamster climbing out using the wire on their box. So I stretch it over the side of the table and just bend it back a little bit to help straighten it out so it'll be a whole lot easier to work with and a whole lot easier to cut. Once I've gotten a large enough section pretty straight, I take my plastic piece and I set it down on here. And I want to get 2 windows out of this. So I'm going to mark where that goes to. I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to cut all the way down and I'm going to cut all the way across. So I'll have both windows cut at the same time for both ends of the tote. A partially finished bin so that I can explain to you how I mount my wire. I mount it on the outside of the plastic bin, and this tape is for decoration and so that the edges of the wire don't show, and then I don't have to cut off every little bit of wire and make sure it's perfectly smooth. That's nearly impossible to do even with the best wire cutters. You still end up with little pokies. So this covers it all up and makes it all safe. I think that mounting it on the outside is a safer option for the animal anyhow. Secondly, this is where I put my wire, and you can see this one little piece here goes through, and it is on the hamster side. This is all on the other side, so nice and smooth. You do have to sand the edge of your box so that you don't have a rough edge that your hamster could get hurt on, and make sure that your wire overlaps 1 inch. My dry erase marker, and I'm going to make a couple of marks in the corners and in the middle of my wire spans. I found that that was enough if I just put them in the middle and in the corners, because this wire is stiff enough that it doesn't really bend, so you don't have to worry about them squeezing out. Now that I have my holes marked off, I'm going to drill those holes. So I put this up through the holes that I have drilled, and then I twist it on as tightly as I can. You don't actually have to twist it all that much. And then I try to lay the wires down flat so that when I put the duct tape on, they're not going to stick out. I do this all the way around, and then I put the duct tape over the edge, only to the edge of the plastic. If you put the duct tape any higher, you'll end up with bedding on it. And if you put it lower, it just doesn't look as nice. So I cover that up with duct tape. And then you have a finished mesh end, just like on my bin that I showed at the beginning of the video. So I hope you have a good time making your bin. I actually find it quite fun.